Wu-Tang represents a sword style of rhyming. Being that we are lyrical assassins, we are aware that the tongue is symbolic to the sword. Like when in motion, it produces wind. Just like when you hear the word woo, you hear wind. That's also the sound you hear when the swords are swinging on your neck. That's why we say protect your neck.
It's 9 members, it's 9 mentalities going to work every day. Yo, you know they from the street because the way they talk and all of that. And like I said, man, it's just that, yo, they love it, they love it.
Everything just built up, like one by one. You know, the brothers we grew up with, like Method Man and all them, we all from the same projects. We brothers from the same projects that got together to work on one project, to escape the projects.
We knew it was going to hit because it was too many of us. You know what I'm saying? They didn't understand it at first because they hey, a bunch of black guys, they want to be Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, you know what I'm saying? That's how they took it. But watch me now.
The year is 1993. At the beginning of the year, Bill Clinton was sworn in as the President of the United States. Michael Jackson gave an iconic performance during halftime of the Super Bowl, and Michael Jordan announced his initial retirement from basketball. Jordan announced his retirement in October of that year. The very next month, in November, the Wu-Tang Clan dropped what's regarded as one of, if not the greatest albums in history, with Enter The Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. Before getting into the album though, I would quickly like to plug that I made a TikTok that you guys should definitely go follow. I'll be posting content on there. I'm trying to get that popping, so definitely go out and support that. And if you haven't already done it yet, go follow my Instagram too. That would be greatly appreciated. You guys can always reach out and just show me some love. It's all good. Make sure to comment on what it was like for you in 1993 when this album came out, or what was your reaction when you finally first heard it. Now with these videos, I typically start the timeline of the album a year before its release. I'll be doing something slightly different today by giving a condensed backstory of the group. GZA is the oldest of the entire Wu-Tang Clan. He's related to both ODB and RZA. GZA was the very first person out of the group to have a record out in the music industry. He did this by signing to Cold Chillin' Records under the Genius, which was his rap name at the time. At the beginning of 1991, he released his debut album, Words from the Genius. One of the songs from the album is Come Do Me. GZA felt like his label did not promote his album enough and soon left the label. RZA was the second person to venture into the music industry, with him notably releasing an EP titled Ooh I Love You Rakim later on in 1991. This is when RZA went by the name Prince Rakim. I've got to learn to say no. Unlike his cousin GZA, he was signed to Tommy Boy Records. The two originally signed to Jamaica Records for management, and a man by the name of Melquan Smith became their manager and got RZA his deal with Tommy Boy. That's how Melquan was able to go to Tommy Boy and secure a single deal for myself with an album option, and go to Cold Chillin' and secure a single deal and an album option for GZA. The GZA album option got picked up. He released the album called Words from the Genius. Tommy Boy put out Ooh We Love You Rakim, but the album option never got picked up cause I went to jail. RZA went to jail due to being accused of shooting a man in the leg. He ultimately faced doing 8 years, but he managed to get off. The trial heavily affected RZA, and with a child on the way, he knew that he needed to change his ways. From this moment on, it was exit Prince Rakeem and enter the RZA. If he was found guilty, I might not be here today telling you this story. But RZA is the Abbott of the Wu-Tang Clan, with Abbott meaning the best knowing. It was he who brought everyone together to create history. He had a vision and was the common denominator of the group. Before officially forming, all of the members knew him and gravitated towards him. Almost 2/3 of the original 9 members of the Wu-Tang Clan represent Staten Island, aka Shaolin. The members of the group that are either from Shaolin or grew up there are Ghostface, U-God, Inspector Deck, Raekwon, and Method Man. Cappadonna is from Shaolin too as the 10th member. The members from Shaolin are divided by projects, which are known as Stapleton and Park Hill. Raekwon, U-God, Inspector Deck, Cappadonna, and Method Man all rep Park Hill, while Ghostface reps Stapleton. Cap reps Park Hill as well. While RZA reps Brooklyn like Master Killa, ODB, and GZA, he also spent time in Stapleton when he was in Staten Island. Back then, there was tension between people from Stapleton and Park Hill. In the beginning of Wu-Tang, there was definitely tension because of this, but it was never as serious as people make it out to be, especially between Raekwon and Ghostface. Everybody from their respective areas knew each other, but like I said, RZA was the common denominator and the link between all of them. I did want to bring up Method Man though, because there have long been rumors that he replaced Cappadonna's spot in the original group. In an interview with Funk Flex in 2012, RZA said that he knew Cappadonna before he ever met Method Man. Cap and RZA used to make tapes together. In fact, before the Wu-Tang, RZA, ODB, and GZA formed a group called FOI, Force of the Imperial Master, which went on to become All In Together now. Cappadonna made music with them, but he unfortunately got locked up, which ultimately affected him becoming an original member of the Wu-Tang, even though he was there from the beginning. But I guess it depends who you ask on whether Method Man actually took his spot or not. Speaking of this though, Master Killa became the 9th and final original member of the group. Initially, Killa Priest was supposed to be on the song The Mystery of Chess Boxing on the group's debut album, but he fell asleep during the making of it, thus Master Killa took his spot and became an official member. I've also read that RZA once came close to offering a local Staten Island rapper named Scotty Waddy an official place in the crew, but it never ended up materializing. But back to the story, and the Wu-Tang as we know it was officially formed in 1992. It's well known that before this year, members of the crew did music with RZA as far back as the 80s, but 1992 is the year that they came together collectively as a group. It all started at RZA and Ghostface's apartment at 134 Morningstar Road in Staten Island. This became the first home for Wu-Tang Productions. Some of the early Wu-Tang music is surprisingly available online. It should be noted that in 1992, the crew made a demo tape. This was before their deal, and it's gritty and raw to say the least. On this demo tape, there are a few songs that ended up on their debut album, like After Tears, Come Laughter, aka Tears, and Bring the Ruckus. The song Cutting Heads eventually landed on ODB's debut album. My favorite song from this tape has to be Problems.
Check it out, yo. Oh, never listen to the things that my mother keeps telling me. Get up, yeah, because my teacher keeps telling me.
Even though this song is in low quality, it still sounds amazing, and I wish it was CDQ. While Protect Your Neck did not appear on the demo tape, it would be this song that sparked it all for the Wu-Tang Clan. The story is that in December of 1992, people affiliated with Wu-Tang got Bobbito of the Stretch and Bobbito Show to play the record. According to Bobbito, RZA and Ghostface were there when this happened. I know it was RZA because I recognized him. He had came up when he was Prince Rakeem. It was him, I remember Ghostface and 3 other dudes, and Ghostface was the one that was acting like crazy, like yo money, play our joint, play our joint. In the documentary Wu-Tang Clan of Mics and Men, he gets interviewed about this and he says that when he got the record, it just had a white label on it with no writing. It was straight out the trunk. He was taken aback by how different the record sounded with the martial arts elements, but soon loved the record. Once members of the group heard the song on the radio, it was over for them. They knew that they could be big, and it really ignited a flame that eventually took them to the top.
First things first, man, you with the worst. I'll be sticking pins in your head like a nurse.
Protect Your Neck, along with the rest of their debut album, was recorded at Firefly Studios in Brooklyn. The studio was run by an engineer named Yoran Vazan. I think that's how you say it. I don't really know. He once told a story of the session for Protect Your Neck being $300, and the members partially paid him in quarters. That is just too funny to me. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. But that's how it was. They were not rich yet. In fact, a lot of people within the group were still hustling, which ended up backfiring on them, but at the end of the day, they had to do what they had to do. It's also been told that RZA used to tell members to bring money to the studio if they were serious about doing music. Protect Your Neck was an underground hit. It caught the attention of several labels, but the labels weren't too fond of the group having as many members as it did. It was mainly due to a money issue and having to split the money in 9 different ways. According to Ethan Ryman, a co-engineer who worked on the group's debut album, in an interview, he said that Method Man was offered a solo deal with RCA Records, who wanted to sign him as a solo artist, but he turned it down. Obviously, this was before the group signed with Loud Records. Ethan describes Method Man as living as a Viking back then. He had no hot water or heat at his place, but he turned down the deal, which happened to work out in the long run. RZA always had a plan. It was to have total control of the group and its direction. He had a 5-year plan. For those who do not know what this plan was, essentially, RZA made a deal with Steve Rifkin, who was the then owner of Loud Records, who the group eventually signed to. The Wu-Tang Clan was signed as a group to Loud Records, but however, each individual member were free agents. RZA wanted to take the group to #1 in 5 years, which he eventually did with their sophomore album Wu-Tang Forever in 1997. This album topped the Billboard 200 charts, selling 612,000 copies in its first week. It went quadruple platinum by the end of the year, and that's where it stands today. With RZA's 5-year plan, he also wanted the members to sign to other labels to increase their reach. Method Man went to Def Jam, ODB went to Elektra Records, Raekwon stayed with Loud, GZA went to Geffen, Ghostface went to Epic, etc. Every member of the group brought something different to the table. RZA had a vision of each member hitting a different demographic. He saw Method Man as a person who would bring in the ladies and the children, while Ray and Ghost were to bring in the gangsters. GZA was supposed to attract the intellectual people in college and so on. Method Man did not really agree with his position of being marketed as the ladies' man, but the ladies love him to this day despite him feeling like that. But RZA making this deal with Loud Records was huge. In early 1993, Steve Rifkin heard Protect Your Neck and was enamored by it and ended up signing the group. The Wu-Tang Clan going to Loud was risky because they were not the most successful label at the time, and the deal was for around $50,000 at the time, according to Steve Rifkin. They were offered more money by other labels, but other labels did not want to go with RZA's plan. Protect Your Neck was the only single that was released before their debut album. In November of 1993, Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers was released. Despite the underground success of Protect Your Neck, the album only managed to sell 30,000 copies in its first week and peaked at number 41 on the Billboard 200 charts. it's safe to say that the album was not an instant success, but sometimes it's how it is for classic rap albums. The album went gold in March of 1994, and a year and some change later, in May of 1995, it finally went platinum. As of 2018, the album is triple platinum. Outside of the music, another thing that's iconic about this album is its cover art. For the photo shoot of the album, it's indeed true that some members of the group did not show up for it. As a result of this, some of the members put the mask on, and a couple people working on the shoot had to model in the photo to fill in for the absent members. Daniel Hastings is the man who shot the cover, and he said that RZA, ODB, Ghostface, Inspector Deck, GZA, and Raekwon were the ones who came to the shoot. U-God, Method Man, and Master Killer were the ones who did not come. I'm assuming U-God was locked up at the time, and I do not know what was up with Method Man and Master Killer. Before closing out this portion of the video, I do want to give a spotlight to a few people who worked behind the scenes to make this album possible. RZA's brother Divine, the CEO of Wu-Tang Productions, Mook, the first head manager of the Wu-Tang Clan, and Oliver Power Grant, who executive produced the album. 3 people of the many people behind the scenes that I haven't already mentioned who were instrumental to the making of this album. I think it's really insane when you think about how RZA produced this album and pretty much all of the first batch of the Wu solo albums by himself. He was just in a different mode back then, and now it's time to talk about each song on the album. Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chamber starts with the track Bring the Ruckus. The song begins with 2 samples from 2 different kung fu movies. The first one is a sample from the 1983 movie Shaolin and Wu-Tang. This is one of RZA's favorite movies, and the film greatly inspired the group. The other sample that is sampled in the intro comes from the 1979 movie The 10 Tigers of Kwantung.
I wish I got you last time. On guard. I'll let you try my Wu-Tang style.
About this film, RZA would say, "Here in this film, there's a conflict between these young men. They never settled the beef, like these young men can't beat each other. But then the OG comes in at the end and kills the villain in 3 seconds. Me and Meth used to always say that's how our lyrics gotta be. As we get older, we gotta be able to get on the mic and in 4 bars, rip it and Meffer." There were a lot of kung fu samples and skits that were also intended for the album, but they got cut. The intro of Bring the Ruckus is followed by RZA's chorus. RZA saying Bring the Ruckus has multiple meanings. For one, he wanted everybody to go crazy when they heard the song, but on the flip side, he was also calling out all challengers and people who opposed the Wu-Tang Clan. After the hook, Ghostface Killah is the first person that drops a verse on the album. He 100% set the tone with a very memorable verse. The original version of Bring the Ruckus was slightly different due to there being a blues sample that could not get cleared. Due to this, the song had to be redone, thus getting the version that we have today. Raekwon would go right after Ghostface. At the end of his verse, he says 36 Styles of Danger, which is a reference to the 1978 movie The 36th Chamber of Shaolin. This is partially where the title of this album comes from, in reference to the movie. In the movie, each chamber trains something different. For reference, the 3rd chamber tests your arm strength, while the 5th chamber tests your eyesight. Bring the Ruckus was a record that appeared on their 1992 demo tape. It sounds way different than the version that appears on the album.
Bring the motherfucking ruckus. Bring the motherfucking ruckus. Yo, something new from a real life rap.
One of the things that stands out about the version of Bring the Ruckus that made the album is the snare in the beat. When coming up with the beat for Bring the Ruckus, RZA wanted to use sounds that represented New York City and sound effects to bring more color. In 2017, RZA revealed that he took a snare drum to an elevator shaft to get a crash sound that he was looking for. Inspector Deck has said that they also had a snare that was recorded when somebody hit a paint bucket with the mic underneath it. Another fun fact about the album is that the usage of Kung Fu Flick sound bites was to edit out curse words, thus making songs playable for radio, which RZA believes made more kids gravitate to the group. But Bring the Ruckus would be followed by Shame On Her. Just like Bring the Ruckus, the intro of this song samples the movie Shaolin and Wu-Tang. RZA has talked about the recording for this song before in an interview. He said that he was in the studio waiting for ODB to come in. ODB, in ODB fashion, came in late, which sparked an argument between him and his cousin RZA. After this, ODB would go into the booth and did his verse for the song in one take. RZA wanted ODB to do it again, but ODB felt like people were gonna love what he already did, and he was absolutely correct about that. To me, I feel like ODB was the heart and soul of the group. We're all aware of RZA's position and everyone brings something different in addition to the group, but ODB was just the life of it all. Without him specifically, I don't think that the group would have had the appeal that it did because a lot of people gravitated toward him and admired his authenticity. He was always himself wherever he went and didn't care what you thought about it. Big RIP to ODB. The song Clan in the Front comes after Shame On Her, and RZA does the intro for this track. He shouts out the Killer Bees, who are the fan base of the Wu-Tang Clan. Also in the intro, RZA shouts out a bunch of different people. A few notable ones are Lord Messiah. For years, people thought that RZA said Raw Desire, but he said Lord Messiah. This is the name that Killer Priest used to go by. Shaheem, aka the Record Child, was someone that RZA also shouted out. He's a rapper and is a Wu-Tang Clan affiliate. Shaheem was around 14 when Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers came out. Fourth Disciple is another person that RZA mentioned. He's a Wu-Tang affiliated producer and is one of the members of Killer Army, which is an affiliate of the Wu-Tang. But RZA shouts out nearly 30 different people in the intro. The hook is done by GZA. Even though RZA does the intro, Clan in the Front is essentially a GZA solo song. About the track, GZA would say, "That's a great track. When I recorded that, Old Dirty Bastard recorded Brooklyn Zoo at the same time. We all love that track, even though I don't think it's my best work looking back. I go first on there. The guys would be like, we can't go after GZA, he's got to close it. I got kind of tired of hearing that stuff. And with 8 or 9 people on a song, if you go last, you're gonna get cut on the video or the mix show. So I told them, we gotta switch it up on this track, I'm going first." One thing of note with the track is that GZA says pass the bone, which basically means pass the weed. Outside of this being a weed reference, it is also a callback to an old song that he did before he became the GZA. On his album Words from the Genius, he has a song called Pass the Bone. This only appeared on the 1994 re-release of the album and did not appear on the original 1991 version. The next track is Wu-Tang's 7th Chamber. The 7th chamber in the movie The 36th Chamber of Shaolin is training in empty hand forms and techniques. The track Wu-Tang's 7th Chamber starts with a skit. The skit features Raekwon, You God, Method Man, and Ghostface Killah. The skit starts with Raekwon asking Method Man where his killer tape is at. The killer tape is in reference to the 1989 John Woo film, The Killer. It's really cool that Raekwon mentions this because this movie heavily inspired his debut album, which came out a couple years after Wu-Tang's debut album. If you want to learn more about Raekwon's debut album, I already did a whole video on that, so definitely go check that out. I'll put a link in the description for you guys. Shab Meek from 212 is mentioned in this skit as being dead as a result of getting shot. From what I've seen, this is a fictional character. The killer tape skit then fades into the song portion of Wu-Tang's 7th Chamber. When speaking about this track, Inspector Deck said that this is one of his favorite tracks from the album. He notes that RZA does not rap on a lot of tracks on the album on purpose. This was by design so the audience can focus on other members of the group. This track was the 7th chamber, but Inspector Deck notes that there were plans of making a song for each of the 36 chambers. Notably, GZA covered the 4th chamber on his debut album, and Deck covered the 9th chamber on his. A quick side note is that in the music video for Protect Your Neck, it's referred to as the 13th chamber. Wu-Tang's 7th Chamber then fades into the next track, Can It Be All So Simple, Intermission. This track begins with a skit between RZA, Ghostface, and Method Man. The skit is about how things were back in the day, and that is essentially what the song is about, the older days. Raekwon, who appears on the song, said that this is the track where members of the Wu-Tang saw the chemistry between him and Ghostface. It only makes sense that the two went on to remix this track on Ray's debut album, which many consider to be sort of a collaboration album with Ghost due to how many appearances he has on it. After this track comes The Mystery of Chess Boxing. The intro of this song samples two different kung fu movies as well. The part talking about how a game of chess is like a sword fight is sampled from a scene in Shaolin and Wu-Tang. The second part of the intro talking about the toadstool is sampled from the 1978 movie 5 Deadly Venoms. This also plays during the outro. The film is significant because RZA states that this film turned him into a kung fu fanatic. When we made the first Wu-Tang album in 1993, we only had VHS and it was hard to hook up your equipment to get a good sample. The dialogue bit, "If what you say is true, the Shaolin and the Wu-Tang could be dangerous," was a perfect line from my crew. Another great sample from 5 Deadly Venoms was the toadstool is immensely strong, it's immune to any weapon. Raw, I'm gonna give it to you. Those types of intro lines were perfect for my imagination and what I wanted to represent. The name The Mystery of Chess Boxing is inspired by the 1979 kung fu movie Mystery of Chess Boxing. A fun fact is that in this movie, there's a character named Ghostface Killer. This is where Wu-Tang member Ghostface Killer gets his name from. Being a chess fanatic, RZA was drawn to this movie and took a liking to the character. He refers to Ghostface Killer as being one of the most ruthless villains to ever touch a screen. When thinking about who in the Wu-Tang Clan embodied this character the most, it was Dennis Coles, aka Ghostface Killer. He put on a mask like the 5 Deadly Venoms, and when he appeared in the Mystery of Chess Boxing video, it was a crazy sight. I don't really talk about music videos and these types of videos because I feel like that's an almost separate topic in itself to break everything down in that. What I will say is that there's long been a rumor that Ghostface only wore a mask because he was ducking from the cops at the time. According to RZA, this is false. RZA said that the mask was a part of Ghostface's persona and he wore it artistically. It was inspired by the movie 5 Deadly Venoms, as I said. On an old episode of Rap City, Ghostface said that in retrospect, he should have kept the mask on, but when he was performing, it got really hot under the mask, so he took it off. The song The Mystery of Chess Boxing starts off with You God. This is his only proper verse on the album due to a couple of arrests during the album's production. I did my The Mystery of Chess Boxing verse in 15 minutes cause, to tell you the truth, I had to go walk into the jail. I knew I was going to jail, but before I went to jail, RZA recorded me and he said, "I want you to do that verse and I want you to say it this way." So I did about 10 takes. He had me yelling my MFing lungs out. I didn't know nothing about recording. His only other appearances on the album are a brief cameo on Protected Neck and a supporting role in the Killer Tape skit. Master Killer appears on The Mystery of Chess Boxing with an outstanding verse. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that this is one of, if not his only verse on the album. Surprisingly, this was the first verse that he actually ever wrote. RZA helped to structure his rhymes and it was off to the races for his career after that. In the next track, the Wu-Tang Clan showed the world that they were not nothing to F with. The intro voice sample Tiger Style for this track is sampled from the 1977 movie Executioners from Shaolin. It's another kung fu movie that RZA is a huge fan of. He starts off the song and in his verse, he mentions another notable kung fu flick. He mentions a flying guillotine, which is a device that can be thrown onto an enemy's head to decapitate them. This is taken from the 1976 movie Master of the Flying Guillotine. The flying guillotine became what RZA used as his choice of a lyrical weapon. Method Man appears on the song and he's been interviewed about the making of the song. In an interview with Complex, he revealed that RZA made the beat for his self-titled song on the album and Wu-Tang Clan Ain't None to Mess With on the same day. Method Man would further say that even though RZA might dispute this, but it was he who told RZA to sample Biz Marquis' song Nobody Beats the Biz for what went on to become Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Mess With. After Wu-Tang Clan Ain't Nothing to Mess With comes the second single for the album, Cream, which stands for Cash Rules Everything Around Me. Cream peaked at number 60 on the Billboard Hot 100.
I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no job, had second hand.
What some people might not know about the song is that there were multiple different versions of the song before it got officially released. RZA would say, what a lot of people don't know about Cream is that the song must have been recorded 4 or 5 times by Wu-Tang Clan. The first time we recorded it was during a court case that I had, and I felt that I should not have been arrested. That version was called On Some Stuff, and it was just me and Ghostface Killah. Later it got recorded with just Raekwon and Inspector Deck. It was called Lifestyles of the Mega Rich. When we got to the studio to record the 36 Chambers album, it went through some more transitions. I decided that this track has to be on the Wu-Tang album, so I reminded Ray and Deck of their verses, but their verses was long. As a result of this, Deck and Ray had to shorten their verses, with them originally having 2 verses. I don't know what happened to Raekwon's second verse, but Deck said that he planned to release his second verse. I don't think that he ever did this though, unfortunately. But Method Man came in with the legendary hook for the song. Raekwon spoke up on this record and corroborated that the song was old. We're talking about late 80s to very early 90s when RZA made the beat. It's really insane when you think about it. About who came up with the acronym CREAM, Raekwon would say that Method Man's homie, Raider Ruckus, came up with the phrase and its meaning. When speaking of the significance of the song, you guys said that everything in the song is true. Inspector Deck really did go to jail at 15, and Raekwon was really sticking up white boys on ball courts. When speaking on the song, Method Man would say,
like Raekwon the Chef and Inspector Deck got a song called Cream. Each letter in the word cream stands for something. Cash rules everything around me. You know what I'm saying? And they talking about their struggles, whatever, in the concrete jungle. You know what I'm saying? Because the ghetto ain't nothing but a big concentration camp. And we letting y'all know what goes on inside there every day, man.
It's really crazy that Cream has yet to go platinum and took 16 years to finally go gold in 2009. Despite this, it remains one of the greatest, not even rap records, but one of the best records of all time. While everybody killed it on the track, Method Man's hook brought everything together. It would be the next song on the album that is titled after him. The song Method Man starts with the infamous Torture skit. Torture was a game that members of the Wu used to play back in the day. They used to one-up each other by saying that they would do the craziest stuff to each other. This explains why Method Man said that he would lay somebody's nuts on the dresser and bang them. Just super crazy. After the skit, GZA gives an intro where he shouts out members of the Wu-Tang Clan. People have wondered how Method Man got his own song on the album. People allege that there was this cipher that the group did for someone to get a solo song on the album, but I don't really believe that though. Earlier on, I talked about the song Clan in the Front and how that was essentially a GZA solo song, but it's kind of different because that never got a music video and the song was not titled after him. According to Method Man, RZA and Meth were in the house together one day while RZA was making beats. Since Meth was there first, he hopped on the track first. Method Man got the hook of the song Method Man from part of Michael Jackson's remake of the Beatles song Come Together, the Hall & Oates song Method of Modern Love, and the Master A song Music Man. The song Method Man came together at a terrible time financially for the group. RZA remembers, I remember Method Man is a song we created when the lights were out in my apartment and I had to plug downstairs to the neighbor's light socket to get electricity upstairs. Luckily, they had a light bulb downstairs. They didn't know I was plugged into that light. That was the only way for me to have electricity because at the time I couldn't afford my electric bill, so they cut mine off until I got my ones up. Method Man would say that some time later when the music video for the song came out, he was at home watching it on TV while eating ketchup and rice. He didn't have any food in the house. What makes it even worse is that it was around Thanksgiving time. The song Method Man then fades into the album's first single, Protect Your Neck. This was released independently and Tears was a B-side on it. When the group signed to Loud Records, the Method Man song became the B-side instead of Tears. It's pretty clear cut what Protect Your Neck means, but the origins of the saying have been somewhat explained by Raekwon. In an interview with Vlad TV, he explained that the older people in his neighborhood growing up used to mess with the little kids. One of the things that they used to do was chop people on the back of their necks. This is most likely where the saying Protect Your Neck comes from. Inspector Deck starts off the song, and I think that it's safe to say that he's one of the best ever at setting off a song. He always kills it, but when he goes first, he just sets the bar and he just sets the tone. The reason why Inspector Deck goes first on a lot of songs is because, as he explains, he was always prepared at a moment's notice to get on a song. Ghostface has the 6th verse on the song, and he said that it was not the first song that the group did, but it was the first song that they ever did together as a whole group. Ghostface also hates his verse on the song with a passion. The reason why is because he was rushed to do it because everybody else was already on the song. GZA has the 8th and last verse on the song, and what I never knew about his verse is that people allege that he subliminally dissed the rapper Granddaddy IU. As explained earlier, before GZA became the GZA, he was the genius on Cold Chillin' Records. In his verse, he throws obvious shots at his previous label and even name drops them in the first line. GZA raps about his experiences with the label, but also later on in his verse, he raps that they were looking for a suit and tie rapper who's cleaner than a bar of soap. Granddaddy IU used to wear suit and ties, and he did so on his 1990 album Smooth Assassin. In an interview, he said that the label chose to push him over the Genius at the time because they were probably not feeling his song Come Do Me. What do you think? Is this a reach or not? Let me know in the comment section below, and also rest in peace to Granddaddy IU. Tears is the second to last song that appears on the album. This is another song that appears on their 1992 demo tape. It was then known as After Laughter Comes Tears, and this is most likely due to the name of the sample of the track. In RZA's verse, he mentions his brother getting shot, which is true, but unlike in the song, he actually survived. The last track on the album is Wu-Tang 7 Chamber Part 2, which has a varied beat from the original Wu-Tang 7 Chamber. In my opinion, I like Part 2 way more. The beat on this version is absolutely bananas, and it gives off a whole new vibe to the song. The album ends with a conclusion, which is an interview that the Wu-Tang Clan did, which is heard throughout the album. And just like that, one of the greatest albums of all time ends. While it absolutely changed the game, it was not an instant success, but when people finally got hip to the Wu-Tang Clan, it was over. This year marked the 30th anniversary of the album, and it's an understatement to say that this album aged incredibly well. Everybody in the Wu-Tang Clan did their thing, and this album launched a movement. I'm glad for all the people who stuck through to the end with me talking about one of my favorite albums of all time. All in all, let me know what you guys thought of the video and the knowledge that you learned today. I love you guys with all my heart. Peace.